I'm leading in the world is about how do you market in a tribal economy. Like I call it marketing for the rest of us. For if you're not a tech person, if you don't understand SEO and you're bored by algorithms or frustrated by ever-changing algorithms,
aren't we
right?
all?
And you're like, or you just hate the technology of it all. What you appreciate is people, and you want to make a connection with people. That's the rest of us. I shifted my model because it was what I found like I was attracting people who came in for the service, but they weren't aligned with the thought process, how I teach marketing and relationship-based like connection and marketing. So they were like, I was a vendor. I wasn't a coach. I wasn't a thought leader. I wasn't a guide. I was just a vendor, like here, make my podcast kind of a thing.
Right.
And I realized I needed a lot more communication and experience up front with them so that they could align to me. And I think most people in marketing...
Context
is decisive, they say. I just needed more, I needed more of that. I needed to create more context before we got to me helping them with services and stuff. So.
Right.
Yeah. So last summer I started a program called the Groundswell Method Intensive, which is like a 6-week program where you spend 6 weeks with me in a group and you're posting every day. And I'm giving you feedback and you're getting good at speaking your truth by the end of 6 weeks.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
6 week intensive.
Yeah, and then by the end of 6 weeks, now you're ready for me to actually teach you marketing stuff. But most people try to do marketing before they actually know what they want to say.
Right.
So they buy all sorts of tools, gadgets. Right?
Guilty.
Yeah, well,
charged.
It's super common, and it's easy to focus on the tool because the tools, we're like, oh, sweet, like I can play with a landing page, or I can play with email, or I can play with this light and this, right? And it's hard to play with your message because it's stuck in your head and you don't know how to say it, and then you're terrified of getting judged if you say something stupid.
So you worked with them for 6 weeks before you really talked to them about marketing. The 6-week Groundswell Method
Before we
school.
talk about mechanics of marketing.
Okay.
Yeah.
So in that 6 weeks, are they marketing?
Yep.
Okay. So they're
posting.
Posting.
They're posting every day.
Are they like sponsoring or boosting those posts or creating ads out of those posts, or is it just like...
Not yet.
Okay.
We'll do that in the 8-week program after. But in the first 6 weeks, it's really just, it's like we start with how do you find the conversation. I say you're here, you have a conversation to lead, right? It's not like marketing. You think about marketing, it's like you have something to sell.
Gotcha.
The way I teach it is you actually have a conversation to lead. The conversation is bigger than the transaction.
Yeah.
Right? There's like a thing you sell, but that's not aspirational. And nobody in today's marketing, because I call this the tribal economy, we're not in the information age. I don't need your information. What I want is connection from you.
Right.
And in order to create connection, you can't create connection through a transaction. You have to create connection through aspiration.
Right. And expertise. I mean, like, I think I've said this for a long time, but I think when I first got in the real estate business specifically, that's when like web search and IDX and all this stuff was coming into play.
Yep.
And so, yeah, it was exactly that. Like, I think for a long time, the real estate industry was service-based, but it was also like information-based. Like right. I need you, Chris. Like, you're a realtor, but I need you, and I need your access to all of this stuff that I don't have access to, and what houses are for sale and have had price reductions are available and getting in. But now it's like they don't need that, right? And so I was kind of on that, like the front end of that curve. I felt like for me, like it was an aha moment one day when I was like, they don't need my information, really. You know, they might want you to provide it because they don't want to do it, but they have access to like. Yeah. You know, I say the Z word, but Zillow, or they have access to like all this information. But what they needed like a guide, right? They needed my expertise. Yeah. And then, they want a relationship. They want a connection. So they want somebody who, you know, and ideally, I'm just assuming, but they want someone that's like fun and cool and that they connect with and that simultaneously has some expertise or experience that's outside of the information that's going to benefit them. Yeah. But it's not, I don't need you to tell me how much square foot this house is or what it last sold for or anything like that. So you do the 6-week thing, and then you're talking to them about guiding a conversation, I'm assuming. So what does that look like then after that? Like, so then after the 6 weeks, so then they go, now they get the concept of marketing, then what? So the end of the 6-week program is they actually launch their own podcast. So there's a tangible result, right? Like, okay, you launch your podcast in the world. It's a real thing with real episodes. And now that you have that, let's go talk about how to grow that in the world. So then we move into the 8-week program where we're talking about how do you find people, right? Because that's hard. Most people to interview or to be on your podcast. Or no, just find clients. How do you go find your people, your tribe? How do you find the people who are going to be your ideal clients? Because not everybody's an ideal client. No, absolutely not.
But if you do your messaging right, it will attract the ideal people.
Yes.
Because your message either repels or attracts, or it's just generic and it doesn't do anything, right? Which is actually how most marketing is. But so we talk about how do you find your people? How do you then foster relationship with them? Because it's one thing to find them, but most people don't follow up. They don't foster relationships. So if you don't have a content strategy for fostering, which, by the way, it was exactly what we did in those 6 weeks.
Okay.
That 6 weeks where you got a podcast and you built all sorts of repetition, because you told me once, repetition is the
mother of education.
Mother of education, right?
That's what Jesuit priest told me that.
Dude,
Repetitio est mater est stan.
Wow, they even beat the Latin in.
Yeah,
I like it.
With a ruler.
Wow, you said that to me in the room next door when we were doing your podcast.
Yeah, and I still use that podcast.
That's amazing. Yeah,
I use it for education.
Right, and it fosters relationship with people, and you don't have to be there to do it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I've had multiple people that that was a kind of a training specific podcast that we did.
Right.
Like agents that have come in the firm, and then they're like, I'm in their ears, and I'm in their houses, and I'm in their cars with them, and so they come and then we have this relationship that's, hey, I really liked what you said about X, Y, and Z, but I didn't have to say it 800 times over and over.
So picture that, right? In the growing of your message and your relationship with your people, now you're fostering just like that, except instead of your agents, it's your clients and the community.
Right.
And they're hearing it and they're like, oh my gosh, I feel like I know you. I feel like all that. So that when they get ready for a transaction, because most people, if we're talking real estate here, that's what this is, right? If you're talking real estate, most people aren't in the window of time in life where they're going to buy or sell a house because the buying cycle is so long.
Right. So your message is incongruent with where they're at.
Right.
But it's still a good message, and if they're tapping into it along the way and kind of getting to know you and building a relationship, then when the time is right, then they're like, oh, Chris is my guy.
Right. If you talk to, what's the average 7 to 9 years people move?
7 to 10 is kind of what I told.
So for 7 years you talk to me about real estate when I'm not looking to buy or sell, it's kind of like, okay, but there's no connection. It's not like I want to listen to your thing or see your Facebook post, but if you talk to me about something aspirational for those 7 years, I'm like, dude, I just like who you are.
Yes.
And if you keep in the background for me that you're in real estate, that I don't forget, but that's not the point.
Right.
Then when it comes time to...
No, this happens to me all the time. People are like, Keith, we know you're not a good realtor, but we really like you. So we like your messaging. So we know it's okay. We're going to forgive you.
That's hilarious. Yeah.
So I think it's cool because I think, you're right. If you create your messaging, then they kind of know who you are and it's congruent with how you operate. And then you don't have to have a lot of those conversations up front.
That's right. It's crazy. I think part of that is humanity, just how we're wired as humans. But I also think on coming out of the information age and into the tribal economy, people want to feel safe.
The tribal economy.
Yeah, right?
I'm going to steal that.
Steal it. So I saw the stat, 98% of people are cynical and skeptical of what they see online, which makes total sense. Yeah. Like, so everybody's telling us to worry, everybody said whatever. So this is the environment we market into.
Sure.
So...
a cynical environment.
Yeah,
we're marketing into a cynical society.
And where people don't trust you or believe you.
Right.
So how you show up and who you be in your marketing and your content actually matters. Because if you come off as authentic and transparent and vulnerable, then people feel safe with you rather than cynical of you.
Right.
But I call this, or I've heard it said, called Instagram perfect, right? Like everybody in their marketing's like Instagram perfect. We're like, hey, what's up? And until you step out from behind your mask, nobody's going to step out from behind their mask. And so what happens is somebody meets up with you, and what you have is this completely inauthentic exchange. Like, I'm here trying to be perfect realtor, and you're over there trying to be not show me anything about you, and now we're supposed to buy a house together or list a house together, right?
Right.
And so, but if you could, in your marketing, lead the way and be in front of that entire interaction by having content that's transparent and vulnerable, you would pave the way for people to not ask you about money because they just feel so glad that they found somebody who's safe.
Right.
That's the point.
No, it makes perfect sense. And like I said, I think that word that you hit on for me is authenticity, right? Like it has to be authentic. And if it is authentic, then it's also, even in a like I said, people are cynical. So even in like a good scenario, I mean, I can get referred somebody from a really close friend, and they say, "Hey, this is my friend Sally.
Right.
She, I told her all about you, and she, she's going to meet you Saturday." And yet you meet them, and there's still that first 5 minutes.
Right.
I'm like, I'm still going to feel this guy out. Because they just it was a good referral, it was a hot referral, and maybe it was talked highly of, but they still don't have a relationship with me. So how many of those first 2 or 3 interactions do you have where that mask is still on?
Right. Which, if you have content
Right.
That's transparent and vulnerable and authentic. And you can send that to them before they meet you.
Right.
That fosters the relationship. So their guard is down, they're warm, and they feel like they know you before you ever get there, which is perfect, right? And then the third stage is to funnel them through appropriate process to create expectation, anticipation, to create like all the stuff where most people, we prepare for the invitation to work with us. We do great when people come to work with us, but we don't do a great job of making the transition to working with us exciting. Most people are like, it's like a chore. It's like, do I have to take work off? Like, it's not like oh my God, we get to go look at houses today. It's like fine, like, I'll see what I can do. But if you could funnel it more strategically and actually have a process for funneling, what would happen is people would come into the last part, which is fulfill.
Right.
Your fulfillment of what it is you offer would be so much smoother if the funneling of it was set up in a way that created expectation and excitement.
And especially, I think, if you cater that message, and then if you are intentional about how you show up, that's one of those things where I've been guilty of that too, I'm sure, of I show up to an appointment with even that hot lead, Sally, that a friend referred me to, but her expectation of how I was going to show up was maybe in a suit and a tie and with a clipboard and asking all these questions, and I show up like really casual, like, hey, let's just get to know you and talk to me about your house and what you're hoping to do, thinking that this is just like maybe you want to sell, maybe you don't want a thing, and then they leave going, man, he just didn't really seem prepared, he didn't really seem excited to be here, he didn't really seem like,
where's his suit and tie?
Yeah,
got gypped. Where was his suit and tie?
Where was his interest, right? He didn't even really like you. He didn't even really seem on it,
Right. Yeah.
I mean, I've definitely had that feedback before in the past where people are like, my friend Sally said you kind of just showed up and were, willy-nilly or just kind of really casual, and it's like, well, shit, I didn't know it was,
right.
I didn't know what I was supposed to show up like, right? There was no context or whatever. No, I definitely see how that could be hugely beneficial, especially if how you then show up is a match for that.
Right.
Meaning, like, if you know the messaging you're putting out, then when that person is like, oh, I don't want to cut out of work early today and I guess I'll come to your office, it's more like, no, I'm excited to meet Chris tomorrow and talk to him about like my hopes and goals and dreams and aspirations in a new home. Yeah. But then you show up like, so glad you're here, tell me about your hopes, goals, and dreams and aspirations in a new home. So it's congruent then, it matches with the messaging.
I like too that if you think about video, a lot of people are afraid to go on video. Yeah. It's like pulling teeth.
Yes, very much so.
The thing about video is people actually can see what you look like. They can see if you're casual, if you wear a suit and tie. They can see your body language, hear your tone. There's a lot of stuff about video that warms up the relationship that if you just write and post a picture or you do like a selfie or something, you don't get nearly the relationship value, which is cool. It's cool that Ethan from BombBomb's coming because that's video. Like you actually get to put video in to the fostering and the funneling sequence.
Yeah, I can't say enough about video right now, honestly. Like I have just been using it, I would say, intensely or more intensely in my business in the last 6 months, really more so in the last 3, intensely and doing it, playing around with it, having fun. But part of it was I got a coach, like a business development coach, and he does a ton of video. And so John's always talking to me about video. And, he's a pretty direct guy. He can be direct with me, but he's always like, don't be a coward. Like, just do it. Like, you overthink this stuff. But it's really interesting because, and I don't know the stats specifically, but like there's a bunch of research with regard to video, and I've seen the results firsthand of just like that, the things we've been talking about, as well as just even people messaging me or commenting or whatever. But it's like 400 times more effective for like warm lead conversion than email or text or call. Totally. And then there's also a bunch of research and studies that have to do with, we were all raised in a, in a talking TV generation, I was not pre-internet. I mean, I was pre-internet born, really, 80s.
Like around the Wiggles time?
Yeah, around the Wiggles. I had a lot of connection with the Wiggles. I would have let the Wiggles sell my house. I would have. No, I don't know who the Wiggles are. But so there's a lot of the Wiggles. But there's this, when the internet came around, I think so much of us now, a lot of the, especially the millennial generation and this and that, it might be a little different, but so much of us portrayed authority
Yeah.
to somebody, to a talking head on a screen.
Yeah.
So the news, right?
right.
We watch, Tom Brokaw or whatever. It was
MTV, SNL.
right, and you immediately cued into this person must have some sort of authority or specialty, even on MTV,
Right.
because they wouldn't be on. Well, nobody else would. They wouldn't be on TV if they didn't weren't legitimate with regard to something, right?
Yeah,
And the internet's kind of obviously, I think, I don't know, it's ruined that, but it's definitely made people more skeptical, like you're saying.
Sure.
But there's still, I think, a lot of truth to it. I mean, your brain does not know the difference between a talking head on a cell phone or an iPad or a computer screen or a television, and yet all of us tend to associate some sort of authority with that. Right. And especially if you see it over and over, like, hey, this guy Chris or this guy Keith, he does this weekly thing, and every week he's on here, and he's got 1,500 followers, and he's got, so they automatically, it gives you some validity, right? Like, he can't be a total schlep because he's, he's human, he's authentic, he's real, but then also there's all these other people that are liking and sharing and following, and he's being consistent with it. Right. This isn't just like one YouTube video that had 1 million likes that the guy never shot another video. This is,
Yeah, I just made a post yesterday on my podcast that was I do a video and I turn it into a podcast, and the headline was basically like, no one was ever invited to speak from one video once upon a time, right? Like oh yeah, I made a video like 10 years ago, and then people just asked me to come speak for them. And I think the same is true for, if what you're trying to do is be seen and visible in your community. Like, there's not one, just because you did a video one time doesn't mean that you're on their radar and they're like excited to work with you. Like, but if you're consistent, which is the thing that I think most agents struggle with the most, because I've been connected to this industry since 2001 when I got my license. Consistency is like by far one of the biggest challenges agents have in lead generation. In
any format. Really?
Any format. Any format.
Yeah.
But so when you're consistent, all of a sudden then people know you're legit, that you're real, you become a part of their life. And they may not even like your post or comment on your post, but they see it.
Right.
And you're there and you're present, and most people just aren't present.
And I think so much of our job too, or my job, the real estate world, so much of our job too, a lot of time it is encouraging or convincing or guiding people that you are a professional and that you do have knowledge and value, and that they should listen to you, or they should take what you say, at least with some respect and like, okay. And so I think it's the same thing of, you're just telling that message, even if, like I said, nobody ever listened to your video, they just saw it, like you said, 7 to 10 years between sales. If they've seen you doing this for 3 years, literally have no idea of your content or what you're saying, you've built validity, right? So if you get the opportunity to come list that person's house or help them through the buying process, they automatically just have this, this guy has to have some sort of worth and value and validity, because he's, I've just been seeing this for 3 years.
Especially when you start comparing it to everybody else who isn't showing up, and you're the one who is. I mean, pretty soon people start to connect dots. They're like, this person knows. Yeah,
and I think, like I said, it transcends any marketing medium, whether it's it could even be postcards, but you mail a neighborhood once, you're throwing money away. But you have to mail it every month, and you do it for years and years. And then pretty soon, like I said, people are tossing your postcards, but they all of a sudden, when the time is right, it's congruent with, you're in their RAS, right? And you're on top of mind. But you've built the validity. Like, this guy must have a marketing budget. He sends me mailers every month. He's doing it every month all the time. So there's that aspect of it too. But also going back to just, I think, the leveling up of video. And one of the things I've been loving lately is just videoing, messaging like my friends and my family, and anything for the most random of stuff. But it's just cool the different reaction you get. So it's mom's birthday, and I'm not going to send mom a text and be like, hey, happy birthday, mom, which my mom would love a happy birthday text from me. But if I just do like a little 2-second video, hey, mom, it's your birthday, I love you, I just wanted to say happy birthday. People love that because they're seeing your face and your emotion, and they're seeing like, they get all the pieces.
That's really good. It's why I created that first 6-week program, because I realized, like, until somebody starts to be really good at just showing up and speaking their truth, like, that's the thing. Is like, most people in marketing think they have to speak from checking a box. Like, did I cover everything? Or a script or a teleprompter? But if you can find the thing that you really want to say to the world, and then you keep showing up for 6 weeks on video, by the end of 6 weeks, what happens is you go from being intimidated by it to just being like, it's no big deal.
Right. Well, and that's what I just did that at my coach's encouragement to get used to the camera and the use of video was, mom's birthday or
good
brother's
tip.
birthday,
Yeah, totally.
or just like, you know, even telling some of my my contractor workers that work with me, like, hey, swing by. Like I'm at the house, right, and it's late at night, and I swing by, and I'm like, I shoot him a quick video. Hey, swung by, dude, backsplash tile looks awesome. Thanks so much today. It looks really cool. Can't wait to see what you guys do in the bathroom. So, but again, they're getting this appreciation, which is awesome.
Yeah.
They're seeing that I see it. You know, they're seeing the emotion. But then also, but like I said, it's getting me like a little bit numb to the camera.
Yeah.
Right. Like if I've done 18 or 20 of these in a week, in 2 weeks, and like pretty soon it's like turn it on.
The mother of skill.
The blink. Is
that what it is? Mother of
education.
What? Oh, education. Yeah.
Repetitio est mata est instant. Repetition is the mother of education. I don't know. Repetition is probably the mother of a lot of things.
Yeah.
There was another one they used to say, but I didn't agree with it.
Was it repetition is the mother of something?
No, it was something was the mother of invention or something. It was necessity is the mother of invention. Or something?
Yeah. I think that's it.
Yeah, I never agreed with that one.
No,
I don't know.
that's right. Yeah, man.
I think my twist on that one was necessity is the mother of hard work.
Oh, well, that fits for you.
Right.
You're a hard worker.
Well, I also just think it's nobody will work harder for a paycheck until they really need one. Like when it's necessary that you sell a house next month,
right?
It changes the way that you go about your business on a daily basis. But when it's not necessary and it's all of a sudden it's ancillary, like, well, it'd be nice if I sold like 2 more houses this month. Like your approach changes, right?
Right.
Like when there's a hole in your boat, it's necessary you bail. You bail.
Yeah, I like your version better.
Your version better. It's not the mother of invention.
It's mother of hard work.
Like hard work.
Yeah,
right, that's what. Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. They're wrong. You should put that in a video.
Smarter than all those Latin.
You should you should put that on Facebook tag.
Let's do this really quick.
What is it?
Growth with a Purpose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the event that's coming up.
This is Ethan. Yeah.
Yeah, Ethan
Growth
from
with a
Bum
Purpose.
That's a great event. I love that conversation, by the way. See, you're talking about like leading a conversation. That there's this. I love those 2 words. I think Ethan said that in his video, like growth and purpose, right? Like, it's cool that you've got a conversation and a context for what this whole career and industry is. Like, let's not just sell a house. This is like, let's grow, but let's grow with purpose. I love that.
It's true, and it's one of those things where I think a lot of times we grow, which is good, and sometimes growth is good, and then sometimes we also go like, okay, I need to be a little more purposeful about like how I grow, what this looks like.
That just made me think of. I like the whole. I can do spiritual conversations, and I like the woo woo of things. Like I like the law of attraction. I like vibrations and chakra bracelets. I like all the stuff. Right, and
we're really getting to know Chris now.
Yeah. And so there was like this season where I stepped out of running a real estate company and just went into coaching. And I would sit on my patio and read books and journal and think deeply of life and make vision boards. And there was a part, and it was very purposeful. It was like a purpose. The energy of it was very purposeful, right? It's purpose. Right. But it never got into the physical world. Like it just stayed as purpose without the growth, right? So it's like I'm just saying, like you can have growth without purpose. And that kind of leads to burnout and a lack of meaning. Or you can have a lot of meaning and purpose without growth, and you just kind of like zen out and actually become irrelevant to the growing and evolving world around you. But when you combine the two, and you've got purpose that actually has a self-expression in the world that creates growth, I mean, that's the perfect combo. That's what we're looking for. Yeah, I mean, my whole conversation I'm leading in the world is about how do you market in a tribal economy. Like I call it marketing for the rest of us. For if you're not a tech person, if you don't understand SEO and you're bored by algorithms or frustrated by ever-changing algorithms,
aren't we
right?
all?
And you're like, or you just hate the technology of it all. What you appreciate is people, and you want to make a connection with people. That's the rest of us. And is there a way for so? And that came to me, by the way, after hearing Gary Vaynerchuk talk about all the stuff Gary Vaynerchuk talks about with like his huge team and his huge budget to produce huge videos, right? Like I'm like, okay, so I'm not Gary. I don't have Gary's budget. I don't have Gary's team. So does that mean I'm like left out? I don't get to compete in marketing? And I thought that's not true.
Or do I have to wait to start until I have all that stuff?
Right. And I thought no. Like one of the assets that I have that I think us in this tribe have is we have emotional intelligence and we know how to make a connection with people.
Right.
And that's actually our advantage. And so if we could bypass the algorithms, the SEO, all the stuff, use that emotional intelligence through marketing to make a connection, we actually could compete in the tribal economy. So what I'll be talking about is how do we, the rest of us, market in this day and age to make real connection with real people? How do we step out from behind our masks so others step out from behind theirs and we have a real connection?
That's awesome. I couldn't agree more, and I also think that that's one of the awesome things about literally a cell phone, right? Like we carry it in our pocket. Like this is the time. This is like, it wasn't like this before, right? Like before social media existed and before technology of a legitimate decent camera or video recorder in your phone existed, this would have taken a production team. And then where would you have posted it? And how would you'd have done SEO and pay-per-click, and you'd have done all this fancy stuff to try to drive traffic to your site that you were posting your videos on. And like, it's really simple now in the sense of, absolutely. I mean, the next Gary Vaynerchuk can start with a cell phone in your pocket. And I think that's really scary to some people.
Yeah.
Because it's like, now it puts the onus on me to like just do this, right? But it's also really liberating to be like, you don't need all the bells and whistles, and you don't have to understand all the algorithms and all the other stuff. Create content, create authentic content, and just put it out there and put it out there and put it out there.
Yep, exactly. It's if you think back to like all the different events we've been to in the years, like it's amazing how and it's cool because we always had to travel for our events, for the most part, right? But that there's events like this where speakers are coming in, and there's a chance. Like I remember those events, leaving events that I had to travel for, feeling inspired, fired up. Like my mind had expanded for what I could do and what was possible, and it changed who I was. And I think like come for the book, right? And come for the networking.
Yeah.
And come with the expectation like, what you're going to hear will actually open something new for how you relate to this industry and your business and how you actually make connection with people. Like this industry, if we're going to step out from behind our mask and be transparent for a minute, it's brutal. Like it can grind your soul to a nub. Like, it's brutal.
Yeah.
And if you gotta find that thing in you that is the conversation you want to lead in the world, so that you have the reserve tank to go the distance, because otherwise it'll chew you up and spit you out.
And I think the word that I'm using a lot lately, and I've kind of coined this as my word for 2020, but it's fun. And so, and a lot of people,
You're a fun guy.
I know, a lot of people are like, fun, weird, Keith, that's your word. But no, on a serious note, when I was doing my kind of like reflecting on my 2019 and looking at my 2020, and I came up with this word fun, it was because I feel like exactly what you're talking about. This business can grind you down, and even though I've had a fair amount of success in this business, and I've like scaled, but there was a point where I'm like, I'm not having fun anymore, right? Like this isn't. I know I was still having fun, but it just wasn't. And I remember a time when I was like, this was fun. It was exciting. It was like, I woke up and I got to go to work, and I got to not only go to work and help people, but I got to have a ton of fun. And so for me, that's some of this education stuff. Like you said, we have to travel for these seminars.
Right.
But I talk to agents all the time about continuing education and going to seminars or events, or sharpening your knives or your tools and staying on your game. And a part of it's about education or clock hours or learning something new. But some part of it for me was just about refilling the tank, right?
Yeah.
Going to an event, and like I said, back in the day, I think it's really cool that Spokane and the Realtor Young Professionals Network is bringing this stuff to us, because we're starting to get this high level training. But we used to have to fly to Seattle or Las Vegas or Phoenix for this stuff.
Right.
And a lot of times I came back and people say, what did you learn? And it was like, well, I learned maybe, these 4 or 5 nuggets, and I met some cool people, but I had fun, right? And so I came back and I also was like, oh yeah, this is why I do this. Like, this is why, it's, maybe I came back and was like, it was kind of like a blah conference, like I kind of knew that stuff, but it reminded me of it, and I'm coming back and I'm kind of pumped up and I'm having fun. So
you were fun, Keith, again.
I was fun, Keith, again. We're having fun. Let's see how many times I can say fun in this video from this point forward.
That's great.
No, I always like have a good time, but I think that's part of it sometimes too. And right, like we have to deal with a lot of stuff, right? People's emotions and tough situations and negotiations, and it can become very unfun very quickly in a lot of aspects. And so I think it's important to keep it fun, and I think it's important to have that kind of in the back of your mind. If you're in that phase, maybe you're in that phase right now, is just recognizing it is the first part, and being like, hey, if you're not in a spot where you're having fun, something's wrong. Yeah. Right?
Right.
So
that's right. How
do we do what we do and do it at a high level, and how do we also bring a lot of like fun?
Yeah.
So fun.
That sounds so fun. I can't wait for the Spokane YPN event. It's going to be growth with a purpose and fun.
And fun.
Growth.
I feel like I should change the flyer. Can we change the flyer on this?
It's growth with fun and purpose.
Growth with a purpose and fun. I love it.
And fun. Oh, that's fun.
It's cool for me because I got a chance to sponsor this event. And the Spokane Young Professionals, the Realtor Young Professional Network, came to me and asked me, if I'd be willing to get behind something like this, and I graciously accepted. But I think for me, it's also kind of cool because in my spot right now where I'm at in the world, it's cool to give back, and it's also cool to be a part of bringing some of this stuff.
Right, totally.
Because I see the value in it, and so it was one of those things where it was a no-brainer. But I also was really, I enjoyed it, and I hope that the people that come enjoy it. And I think that we need to get more of this kind of stuff, and getting people to raise their hand and say, yeah, like not only would I go to something like that, but I also would get behind bringing something like that, because this is my plug to you as well. That is like, if you like this stuff and if you find fun in this stuff, but you also get something out of this, like, let's keep this going, right? Like, let's put some intention behind, like, let's get some big, not that you're not a big speaker, let's get some big speakers in here, or let's get some training that you want, right? Or some things that would be exciting and fun. And so I think a lot of that comes with the momentum that the Spokane Realtor Young Professionals Network has built, and is still building. And it's starting to be, like, from what it was, because I was involved with it when it was really early, to where it is awesome. And I think it's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool. Good.
Yeah.
Love it. We'll see you all there. That was like an extra credit. That was like what happens after the credits roll, and then there's like another scene.
Right, after the credits roll.
Yeah, we're like, what's up? We'll see you then. And then we like had a whole after the credits like bonus scene.
Conversation. Maybe we can like make it the secret clip or something.
It's the secret clip. Like you had to stick around. Remember at the end of a track on a music CD, there would be like wait 30 seconds, and there's like this whole extra like song. Which is fun. It's fun that they did that. It's fun that they did that.
Fun.
Whoever thought of that was fun.
And if you're listening this far, Chris is giving away a Ferrari.
Right? And you
to the first three people that like this video.
You too could drive away in a Ferrari.
I'm just kidding. Disclaimer, he's not giving away a Ferrari.
That's right.
And then how do they scale up and then get away from the fear of the camera? Because I think that's the other part of it, is just that, that's the largest hurdle. I mean, so it was the largest hurdle for me, right? It's being transparent. Was like, I've done a fair amount of public speaking. I've been on video, but getting on a video all the time is it can get unnerving, you know, like, is there anything in my teeth? My hair look okay? But also just like what am I going to say over and over, not sound repetitive or bring value. And so
those are the 4 steps when I created that 6-week program. The first was like, you got to, until you find the conversation, like you can try to do as many videos as you want and it'll never feel congruent. It'll never feel, you'll feel like it sucked, or you'll feel like whatever. You just feel like you did it wrong, and you'll compare yourself to everybody else. You're like, their video is great, mine sucked. Right. Because you didn't find your it. You have your own it, and they have their own it, and so...
Right, and that was kind of my thing too. Maybe I did it wrong, but it's one of those things where it's like, so I would tell people, and they'd be like, so like bigger pockets. And like, no, not bigger pockets. And I was like, shit, maybe it is just another bigger pockets. I don't know. But it was, so it's like, how do you do that?
Yeah. Well, I mean, like part of that is, are you asking me?
Yeah, no, I guess what I'm saying is like what would be one of the beginner ways or stages of how would you kind of start to feel that out?
I always tell people like, you got to understand like how I teach marketing is not transactional. So if the person in the program is like, yeah, but how does this help me sell a house? You're going to miss it, because that's a transactional conversation and this is an aspirational conversation.
Right, like how many videos do I have to put out, Chris?
Before I get a lead.
A lead, right.
Right, yeah, no, that's not this conversation. Because you won't go the distance. If that's what you're doing it for, it's not juicy enough for you, and it won't be compelling enough for them. So you have to find, here's what I tell people, life has already taught you something. So most people's fear in the camera is they don't feel like they're an expert at something, or they don't feel qualified or good enough to say whatever they're going to say, because they're always thinking of the thing out here that they don't have yet. So who am I to do this video about something? I'm not even there yet.
Right. No, and I have that same feeling a lot of times. Even like, I think there could be people that look at me and my knowledge of multifamily rental property, and it might be really superior. But then I'm also looking at guys that I know and being like, well, man, maybe I'm not the guy to even talk about this. Maybe.
I'm not Robert Kiyosaki. Who am I?
Right. There's always that. You know?
There's always that. That's my point. And so, like, if you can put that aside for a minute and just say, okay, life has taught me something.
Right.
That makes life has taught you something that makes you valid. It makes you valuable. It makes you helpful.
Sure.
And if you can find it, that's the finding it part. If you can find the thing that you have deep conviction for, you're like, no, this is what life has taught me, and not about real estate. one of the things I like about the Real Deal thing for you, even though it sounds like you created it with a somewhat of a real estate emphasis, although you could go outside of that. What I know about you is that you are the real deal. Like if I just think about who you are, hey, what's up?
I like that.
Like if I think about who you are,
right.
Like I think you treat relationships in a real way. I think who you are and how you present yourself is real. I don't think you try to be somebody you're not for people. And so if we looked at the bigger, so if I said, I think life has taught you that, how to be real.
Sure. How to be real.
And then if you looked at that and you juxtaposed it, or you looked at that in comparison to the problem in the world, which is too many people are Instagram perfect, and too many people are trying to like make their life pretty, and this is what's stopping us from actually having real relationships, being happy, having fun. Like we're so wrapped up in the comparison of everything that we can't actually just be real and be ourselves. Okay, now you have a bigger frame for the conversation called The Real Deal, and inside that frame you can talk about real estate, but you're not limited to real estate because you can talk about the real deal in relationships.
Right.
And who does that matter to? It matters to families buying houses, because inside of houses are relationships.
Right.
And you can talk about relationships with agents, because inside of an agent's career and business, there's like relationship. Right? Anyway.
Yeah.
Right. So.
No, and I've thought about that too, as spinning off, and not even spinning off, but like roping that stuff in, because. Yeah. Like I would be interested in kind of that, like what's the real deal behind like opening a restaurant? What's the real deal behind like becoming a good chef? What's the real deal behind, prefabbed engineered walls? I mean, you could take that.
That's totally what, when you said that, it made me think of Tim Ferriss's book, The 4-Hour Chef. I mean,
that's what he did. He just chunked it down.
He used cooking as the metaphor for as the delivery mechanism to teach how he does accelerated learning. But then beyond that, it was just like, this is a metaphor for other things in life. Like,
sure, you can chunk this down. It's a 4-hour body,
right?
4-hour chef,
right.
But it's getting to the heart of what matters,
right.
Which is what he does really well.
Yeah. So you could have you could start having a series of books. I'm already seeing it, right? You got like The Real Deal Real Estate, The Real Deal like money, The Real Deal marriage, The Real Deal.
Oh man, so much real deal.
It's a franchise, man, like Bigger Pockets.
Yeah, like Bigger Pockets. I love Bigger Pockets, by the way, but it's not like Bigger Pockets. No, and I think, but all that spun off of, it's just a phrase I say. So people, I would always say, "Here's the deal. Here's the deal." I just notice, everybody has a ticker,
right?
So I say, "Here's the deal," and then it was like, well, so I just spun it, right? The real deal. But yeah, because that's a lot of times I feel like that's what I was really getting at the heart at when I was talking to a brand new agent, or I was talking to a nervous seller about putting their house on the market, or I was talking to somebody in a negotiation about like, should we take this deal or should we ask for more? So it was always like, well, here's the deal. Right? Like here's the pros of taking this offer, and here's the cons of taking this offer, and here's the pros of making a counter, and here's the cons, and here's the deal. And so it's like, well, sounds a little funny. We're like, well, here's the real deal, Chris. Like all the other deals are not the real ones.
Right.
This is the
actual real deal.
Real deal.
Keith told you about the real deal? No, this is the actual real deal.
Yeah. There's like, levels of real deals. Yeah.
Totally. Yeah. Well, I think what you have that spot of finding the conversation that you can lead in the world. And so like the real deal is a conversation you could lead, and you have a lot of flexibility for where that conversation goes. Once you find it, then the second step in that is to capture it. So most people, when they do videos, and this is how we got back to this conversation, right? Was video. You can't do video if you can't find it. Then it's hard to do video. And then most people in their videos are trying to do a marketing video.
Gotcha.
And so they're trying to check a box like, oh yeah, I talked about market statistics, or I talked about whatever, but that's not even interesting to you. So why would it be interesting to the person watching? So what I know is that if you and I were in a conversation about the real deal, and we were talking about something real in life, you and I were talking, and then we were just recording it, we'd be capturing the passion, the conviction about how you feel about things being real versus all the phony, fake stuff out in the world. You're like, that's just fake, that's phony. And you start like throwing tables and chairs and and saying fun all the time. And what happens is like there's this real, the real you comes out.
Yeah.
But we caught it on camera. So we capture it. So 1, you got to find it. 2, you got to capture it. And then 3, you can start getting into the things like producing it and then sharing it, right?
Gotcha. So first you find it.
Yep.
Then you capture it.
Then you produce it. Then you share it.
Then you share it. Yep. I like it.
That's what the 6 weeks goes through. Bam. It's fun watching people come into the 6 week program at the beginning feeling insecure about the video, not insecure in their work or insecure about who they are necessarily, but when you start putting yourself in front of the camera, you start feeling like, oh no, this is really bad. And then just in 6 short weeks, people are coming out the other side actually inspired by their message and who they are. Like the transformation in 6 weeks of like being really skeptical and like apprehensive to like feeling empowered, right, is super cool. And you can see it in their face, like.
Well, I think that's an ancillary benefit of even, not that this is the goal at all, but even after that 6 weeks, if you just decided, hey, video is not for me,
right,
to be able to come out and be like, hey, you know what, I have a really like much better clarity on like who I am, what I have to offer, what my messaging is, what I can bring to the table, and it's like, so maybe at that point, it's like the video becomes easier and you go that way and you're, doing video all the time, or maybe it's just something where you come out the other end and you're going, wow, it was a great exercise to get me to because like I said, even just in this conversation right now, I'm thinking about, okay, my messaging and how I'm going to produce that and how I'm going to articulate that and what it's going to look like. And I think that's sometimes how it is too. And if you talk to, going back to Gary Vaynerchuk, he started with like, I think Wine Library TV.
Yeah, Wine Library.
Wine Library TV.
Yeah.
I don't know why I couldn't say that. Wine Library.
It's Friday afternoon. You're like, Rah.
But that's what it started as, right? It was like this YouTube channel where there was a dude who talked about wine. And now now it's...
Yeah, now he's crushing
Vayner Media. Yeah, he's got books. But I don't think that was ever his intention, necessarily. No. I don't think he was ever sitting at home going...
I don't think he had a vision.
I'm going to start with this Wine Library thing, and then when this gets big, I'm going to start, But it's spawned into that. And I think looking back, I don't know that he would ever agree to do episodes of Wine Library TV again. Like, oh yeah, I'm going to rebirth this and start over, or continue doing that. But at the same time, it got him to where he is.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I like that you said that earlier, and just now too, just about the, you might go through the 6 weeks and maybe you say video isn't for me, but even then you're like, I learned something about myself, because you're always talking about work-life integration. Do you still talk about that?
Oh yeah.
Okay, yeah, because that's one of your conversations, brother.
Right.
It's a conversation that you lead in the world, work-life integration. And I think that to just approach real estate as an agent and to make a transaction is missing some of the things that the buyer or the seller or the humans outside of you, humans over here, actually are looking for from you, which are like, who are you?
Right.
Who are you? It's important that you can sell my house, but who are you?
Right.
And I think when you go through video and you go through the process of having to find you're here to lead in the world, and then capturing that and et cetera, you start to integrate more of who you are into your business. That's the part that's usually missing, right? People do business, they put their real estate hat on, and then they take it off, and then there's somebody else at home, and then they put their real estate hat on, and we're not integrating that enough. And this is why, can I keep going?
Yeah, absolutely.
This is why.
Stop now.
and this is why I think that technology could replace the agent, right? Like I think in the absence of relationship, in the absence of connection, people will choose efficiency. Right. So if I don't have a relationship, I just moved here, I'm not attached to any agent. I'll go to some app and use an app because it gives me information and it's easy. But if there's relationship, relationship trumps, relationship wins over technology.
Yes. Yeah.
And so, but that doesn't happen if you don't integrate you back into who you are and what you're doing as an agent. Otherwise, you're just a cog in a wheel.
And I think, so many thoughts when you're talking. I think you see that in a variety of spaces, but the important thing to remember, I think, is that people do want connection, but they don't necessarily want mediocre connection. Like that's when they'll go to efficiency, right? So what I'm thinking in my head is like there's these bars now where you go out, like wine bars and stuff, where this is a machine, right? You take your wine glass up, you put your credit card in, you push it, and so you're now you have this big, wine bar that has one person that runs it, and they just, check your ID when you come in the door, or whatever.
Right.
But so you don't have the interaction with the bartender. Right. And I think that we've all been out to eat and gone to enough bars where like the interaction with the bartender is like not that great, right? Like I'm gonna go use the machine because whatever. Yeah. But then I've also been to and there's some places that I frequent where it's like I go there because of the interaction, right? Like, and that's not the only reason I go there. Like, yeah, I like the food, or yeah, I like the wine, but also, Tiffany or John or whoever the bartender is like they chat you up and they say hi, and it's like whether you really connect with them, maybe over time you know each other's kids' names and stuff, but even the first time, right. We've all had that experience where someone where you're just like they kind of made it, right? They kind of, and I look at that stuff and I'm thinking like absolutely, like we're in an industry in real estate specifically where we have that opportunity. Not everybody has that opportunity. So I think when you look at, because we work with people for a duration of time, right? Yeah. So when you, and people frequent bars or restaurants all the time, or somewhat continuously, but when you work in an industry like the one that comes to my mind is like the travel agency, right? We saw what technology did to the travel agency. There's a lot of parallels to that in the real estate industry, for those of you that don't know, but like the travel agent got put out of business for the most part, due to Expedia and Orbitz and all this stuff. But at the same time, when you think about it, like what was your interaction, your relationship really with your travel agent?
They got me a good deal, or
they maybe got you a deal, and maybe you saw them once before your vacation, and how many vacations do you really take? And then was the interaction for an hour or two, or was it for a week? In real estate, we have this opportunity where it's like, I can deal with somebody for months, right? Like through the process of getting their house ready for sale or putting it on the market or negotiate. Like it could be, so I have an opportunity as an agent to develop a relationship. And so I guess we as agents then have an opportunity to either live into that and say, I'm going to be purposeful about it and to create relationships and kind of solidify my foothold in this industry. Like I'm not going to get replaced because I have this relationship that is valuable. But I think if we don't, and this is one of the things, is if you're one of the agents out there that's ignoring video, you kind of might be signing off on that, right? That like you're kind of signing the not the death certificate or something, but like if you stop, then all of a sudden now you're an order taker, or now you're just a guy who maybe it's used to be the information and now it's the expertise. But and the last thing on that is like when I look back at the last election, not to get political at all, but like specifically here in town, we had a mayoral candidate who was a former news anchor for Nadine, right? But I think that was one thing that really helped her was people felt like they knew her, right? They had this connection with her. And I mean, even when you look at like the Donald Trumps of the world, like whatever, I feel like that's one of the benefits that he had was that people seeing him through reality TV, in some way, shape, or form, they felt like they kind of knew his demeanor, right? Like kind of knew who he was, whether it was totally real or not.
Right.
You're like, hey, I'm electing this guy for the next 4 years.
Right.
What can I expect?
Yeah.
And people were like, I don't know that I can sit here and tell you exactly who this guy is, but I kind of feel like I know what I can expect.
Right.
Right? Which maybe that's the reason you said no, or maybe that's the reason you said yes, but it was better than not knowing. I feel like if people are like, hey man, like Chris is pretty direct, he can be kind of a jerk, but I know he gets good results and he's consistent. And there's this other guy over here where I don't really know him. Yeah. I've heard good things about him.
It's actually a great metaphor.
It's easier to default to
or analogy. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a great analogy for real estate because I think most real estate agents are like an unknown. Even if they're referred, which you talked about earlier, like they could be referred and I'm like, I don't know, I was referred, but I don't really know the guy or the gal or whatever. So.
And I think it's interesting too because a lot of us that are in the industry, like we know each other.
Right.
So people will be like, oh, have you heard of so-and-so? And people are like, oh yeah, I know so-and-so. But that's usually the people in the industry talking. Right. Like if you go down to the mall with a clipboard, people don't know their name. No, I could go down to the mall with a clipboard and name the top 20 real estate agents by production in town. And I don't know that you're going to get a whole lot of people like, Spokane's a small town, but I don't know that, oh yeah, the realtor guy, or oh yeah, the realtor gal. Yeah. They might say like, oh yeah, that's my second cousin, I know her or something. But like people don't really, in the industry we get kind of like absorbed in, oh like everybody knows who so-and-so is. And it's like, nah, probably not really. Yeah. Because like you said.
Well, which by the way is really cool if you're new in the industry or not, either way, all that's required is that you start showing up and be visible. And that's why video is so cool, right? Because all of a sudden you have a chance to be visible and present when other people who may have been in the industry way longer than you aren't visible and present.
Right.
And they may do a good book of business, but if you're visible, you can compete.
Yeah, and you can compete. You can shortcut that. I mean, like I said, I feel like we have this huge opportunity with today's technology and video just to be able to shortcut that. Like I said, whether you're a seasoned agent who's never done it, or whether you're a new agent who's just starting, you can create this in 3 months, 6 months, 12 months. And that was not the case in like 1985. Yeah. Right? Like that was not the case in 1995. Like, like back then it was the Sunday paper and billboards and the Snap, but there was no way for me to get for little or no money at all that audience where it was like, even with billboards and stuff, it's like you're just marketing the people that drive that road, right?
Right.
You know,
Right. That's my target market is people who drive this road.
people who drive Division.
Just like
That those are the people.
That's
I
my
want.
demographic right there.
Those are the houses that I want to
Exactly
sell.
what-
It's the people who drive
it's
Division.
my farm.
Street.
It's my farm. I'm farming that space.
No, so I mean, like I said, it's a great opportunity, but I think it's one of those that a lot of people haven't grabbed onto yet, and that is the opportunity.
Yeah.
Right. Because how many changes have you seen in 15, 20 years of this business? You know,
Yeah.
so many. And so
A lot.
how many? You know, like how many people are robo posting Craigslist ads right now?
right.
Not many,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
There was a time.
Yeah.
And so, you know, this also might be a window of time, but, you know, if you decide to get into video in 5 years or in 3 years, it might also be like, now it's
virtual reality.
Right. Now it's
Yeah.
real hard to edge in, and, you know, and this Chris and Keith
Could
are
be.
everywhere.
Yeah, well, that's
Can't
that's the real deal.
even- that's the real deal. Can't even get a video online. YouTube won't host anybody's stuff but theirs.
That's hilarious.
Gary and Chris and Keith. There's the three guys.
Oh,
on
man. Whiskey Library TV. .tv.
TV.
I was trying to think about wine library like spoof, like would be like whiskey TV. I don't know, maybe not.
That's the
No.
real deal.
That's the real deal.
That's the real deal right there.
That's the real deal on whiskey. All right, man. Was that? Did we do it?
That's
Do you
good,
want anything
man.
more?
No, I mean I always want more, but no, I think that's great. That's
It's
good.
good. We can talk.
I know it's fun doing that.
good, yeah.
Thank you for coming in, man. I appreciate
Yeah,
that.
brother.
That's good to see
That was
you.
good.
It's been a long time.
Thanks for doing a little video
Yeah.
with me. Look at that. That wasn't that hard, right?
No,
We just had a
not.
conversation and we turned the camera on. There you go. Bam. We captured it, Keith. We captured it.
I mean, nobody's watching this much, but if you are, Ferrari.
This isn't live, is it?
Yeah.
No.
I actually put you on Facebook Live. You didn't know that.